On Friday, January 3rd, the Tri-Cities Legislative Luncheon was held at the Foundation Event Facility on State Street. In this annual meeting, the city leaders from Bristol, Johnson City, and Kingsport get a chance to present a legislative agenda to the state lawmakers before the start of the General Assembly. One of the issues that Bristol is facing is the legalization of wine sales in grocery stores on the Tennessee side of town.
Well, over the summer, we've spent a lot of time meeting with various groups from grocery stores, liquor stores, convenience stores, and talking about the legislation and ways to make it easier for some folks because they've had a government-mandated monopoly forever in the state and how they're going to deal with the changes. As far as the changes, I think everyone knows there's a change coming. So last year I would have said 2013 would have been the year, and we were incredibly close. 2014, I think we take it across the finish line.
Representative Lundberg explained the possible benefits of this legislation.
We get it, I think, more than anyone does from Bristol and Kingsport, that we are exporting business to other states. Steve Smith from Food City came up and testified, and he had a great opening line. He said, I've been selling wine in my grocery stores to Tennesseans for years. They just happen to be in Virginia, his stores are. And his largest stores that sell wine are in Bristol, Virginia, and Gate City, Virginia, right outside of Kingsport, right outside of Bristol. Our folks aren't going over the state line just to buy a bottle of wine. They're also buying everything else there. And we are losing millions of dollars, not just in Bristol and Kingsport, but in the other states that border Tennessee. There are 8 states that border Tennessee. You look at Chattanooga, Memphis, and we are exporting business and we're exporting tax dollars. And we're a state where, frankly, our budget is made up from sales tax. So we need to bring that money back in.
Also on hand was United States Congressman Phil Rowe, who discussed the budget shortfalls in our state.
Obviously, I saw today in the newspaper at home about the revenue has come in a little lower than the governor expected, so that'll require some hard decisions in the state. It's just like families do. If your income doesn't go up or your income goes down, you have to make some tough choices in your family, and that's what governments have to do the same thing because there's not an endless supply of money. And what we've done at the federal level, there's no question about it, have made more promises than we can pay for. And we've got to figure out now how to pay for those promises or either reduce those expectations that the public has.
Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey also spoke on that issue.
Well, obviously this year we're going to have a little bit of budget shortfall. Now keep in mind, revenues are still growing. We estimate them to grow in the neighborhood of 3%. They're growing about 2.5%. But it doesn't make it easy when you go back and have to start cutting things. And you may think, well, cutting $100 million out of a $32 billion budget is not hard until you start cutting. And then nobody wants their part cut. But we run our state very efficiently. We get recognized all the time as being one of the best run states in the nation. We owe less money per capita than any state in the nation. Our pension fund's fully funded. So we'll keep this a sound state.
One of the issues that might help reduce that budget shortfall was adding a sales tax for Tennessee internet sales for Amazon.
When we recruited Amazon to Tennessee a few years ago, we didn't have them actually start collecting taxes in Tennessee, even though they were due. We just allowed them to send a bill to the purchaser at the end of the year, and then it was up to that purchaser to actually pay. But now, starting January 1st, Amazon will actually be adding the state sales tax to your bill. And it's been due all along. This was just a compromise we had to them. They didn't actually have to do the billing. And I do think it's a fairness issue. We're standing right now on State Street in downtown Bristol. If you walk into a store down here and buy something, you have to pay sales tax. So why shouldn't if you order the same thing online? And keep in mind, in Tennessee, we don't have an income tax. We'll never have an income tax. We depend on the sales tax and still have the lowest taxes in the nation. So I think it's fair to local businesses, and we're just collecting something that's due already.
State Representative Lundberg gave us his thoughts on the move of Tennessee schools to the recently adopted Common Core standards.
I think there are misconceptions about Common Core, and people say something and then everybody believes it's true. And I literally listened to them read through the Common Core standards for hours. And there's a key part there is there are Common Core standards. It's not a Common Core curriculum. The curriculum is set by the state. We decide what textbooks are going to be utilized. But Common Core, one of the best examples I can think of is read a chapter in American history, talk about the main subject or the main character in that and the difficulties he or she dealt with. Okay, that's fairly logical, and it shows critical thinking, and I think that's what the standards are about.
Recently, a number of national magazine articles published statistics that showed Tennessee as becoming a more violent state.
Well, actually, there was a study that came out in the inner city with Memphis and Davidson County, but it's my understanding it's a lot on how you actually count those violence. Because let me assure you, if you look at murder rates with Chicago, murder rates with Washington, D.C., murder rates with New Orleans, we aren't as violent. But apparently the way we report our crimes, it does show up on statistics that way. But let me assure you, I'll take our state over any other state in the nation when it comes to safety.
While the homicide rate in Tennessee is relatively low, we do have a drug problem.
In East Tennessee, we had the bath salts issue. I think we dealt effectively with that about a year and a half ago. We still have huge drug problems, I think, especially in East Tennessee with methamphetamines and, meth production. This is an area where, unfortunately, it's a production area in the state. And we're doing all we can to curb production. But it's also one of those we need to educate folks on everything from smurfing, which is going out and buying Sudafed for other people and taking it, because that's a key ingredient in the manufacture of meth.
One of the proposals on the table is to make Sudafed a prescription drug.
There's going to be legislation to put Sudafed behind, not just behind the counter, but behind the prescription pad. I have two problems with that. One is for 99.9% of us that have a cold and we go out to the Food City and grab a box of Sudafed and we take it and that's it. If it's a prescription, we have to make an appointment at our doctor's office, pay $50 or $100 to go there and get that prescription, then go to the pharmacy and get it. And our cost has gone up a great deal. And it's taken, instead of 15, 20 minutes, it's now taking 4 or 5 hours. But number two is, I think we all agree that meth is probably our number one drug problem, especially in East Tennessee, but it's followed very closely by prescription drug abuse. So if we take meth and make it a prescription drug, don't we just move it into a different category rather than, we haven't eliminated the problem, we just changed it in categories? I don't think that's effective.
While we had Phil Rowe in front of our camera, we had to ask him about the upcoming year for the United States Congress.
Obviously in Washington, a major issue is the budget. We passed a budget agreement that requires us to pass a budget and go through the appropriations process. Number two would be the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, or so-called Obamacare. That's going to affect every single American citizen in a personal way. That's a huge issue. There are other issues up there, that pension issues that I'm going to be dealing with, education issues I'm going to be dealing with. The big one of the budget and implementation of the Affordable Care Act. And I think possibly immigration. I really don't know whether that will actually come up in an election year or not, but that's a third issue that may surface this year.
Congressman Rowe also commented on the importance of a meeting like this one.
Well, certainly, I started my public service or political career with the Planning Commission and served on it for many years before I went on the local city commission. And I absolutely believe the best government's local government. And the longer I've been away from here, the more I realize that it is, because as I said today at the luncheon, you actually can get something done on a local level. You can build a road or a school or whatever the public needs, or put water and sewer in the ground. I think it's important for us to know how the laws that are passed, certainly at the Washington level, affect state and local governments. And they have to make a lot of decisions based on what we do. And we talked today about unfunded mandates. One of the pet peeves I had as a local city commissioner and then vice mayor and mayor were laws that were passed in Washington that required us as a local level to do something, but no money to do it with. So the only recourse we have is to raise our property taxes and one of the things I recall is stormwater runoff. And you had to collect with the new stormwater 80% of any particulate matter that washed off of a parking lot. It couldn't get into a stream, but there was no money for that. So those things are terribly expensive, and that's one of the things I think it's important to know on the local level, what those officials do and every day, and the laws you pass, both at the state and the federal level, how it affects local people, because we don't have an income tax in Tennessee, and I don't think we ever will. So we're a state income tax, we're a state sales tax and a property tax, and that's really, and a few fees is how we raise our money.